Welcome back. We're in conversation with a panel of experts. We're discussing and decoding the legacy that India's 50th Chief Justice, Justice Chandrachud, leaves behind. I'm joined on this panel by Ms. Anuradha Dutt. She's the managing partner at Dutt. We also have with us Mr. Alok Prasanna. He's the co-founder of Vidhi Center for Legal Policy, as well as Mr. Sherbir Panag. He's the founder as well as the managing partner at Panag and Babu. Thank you so much for joining us. Ms. Dutt, let me come to you. One question that you had raised was, of course, some of his appearances outside of court. The one question I want to bring to you is an aspect that made headlines, is when the Prime Minister visited the residence of CJI on Ganesh Chaturthi. It raised very many questions on judicial independence. It raised questions even on his conduct on the judicial side with respect to decisions that were made in Ayodhya in Article 370. What is your reading of those series of events? Is that something that perhaps could have been avoided, should have been avoided, or is that above board? Is that par for course, as Justice Chandrachud said, that it's not uncommon for elected leaders to come visit the Chief Justice?
Well, it's not uncommon now. But I would say, the point is not only what appears, but what is the perception that is being projected. Now, if the Prime Minister is going to go to the Chief Justice's house, otherwise there's no issue if there was some meeting. But for a prayer meeting where there are only two of them, the perception that is being sent out is that there's more than ordinary proximity. And I think that is not good for the perception of justice. Justice not only should be done, but also must be seen to be done. On the judgments, yes, I do agree that some of them are very political. 370, I totally agree with the panelist that, you can't say, oh, government will make Kashmir a state. If you are dealing with it, you should have gone the whole hog and said, okay, make it a state by this time. Now, he took the statement of the Solicitor General by September, October. We are not seeing anything. So, as I said to you, yes, the problem is that outside court, there were just too many statements being made, which raised the expectation very high. But when you deliver judgments, you are not that free as to whatever you feel like. You go as per what the law is, what the other judges bring together to the table. So I think that's where the mismatch and what he's done recently about Ayodhya, that really has left a bad taste in our mouth. Because to say that I write judgments to talking to God and not law is really contrary to the Constitution of India and the oath that he has taken, where he says he will abide by the Constitution of India, not by some God that he perceives. That, I think, is a breakdown, total breakdown.
Mr. Prasanna, same question to you. Some of the commentary being made outside, is that something that perhaps will reflect on his legacy, or is this unfair criticism where he's not being judged on the work that he's done in the courts, but rather some statements that he's made as a private citizen outside?
It will be both, Ashmit, because in a sense, you embody the office of the Chief Justice of India, and your office doesn't start and finish the moment you walk into court. Your conduct is scrutinized, and this is true for every judge. I'm just saying it's more so for the Chief Justice of India. Your conduct is scrutinized every second of every day, and it's a new reality. To be very honest, when I started practice back in 2009, we were in the last days of how the media used to treat judges and how the public also used to treat judges as these almost divine figures, and everything that was said in court and so on were these pearls of wisdom that the rest of us had to take. We are in a new reality in 2024. Every word a judge says, everything that they do is going to be scrutinized. And to me, the problem is not that the Prime Minister visited the Chief Justice. The problem is that there were cameras everywhere. This was publicized. And there was a message that was going out when it was being publicized. That is the story to me. To me, it seems to suggest that there was a message that was trying to be sent, which may have landed in the wrong way. But that is what has left, but that has caused what has caused the problem. That you're talking about showing how close or proximate you are. It could be the Prime Minister showing it to the CJI, the CJI showing how close they're to the Prime Minister. That's a problem. And again, the judiciary is an institution whose credibility rests entirely on perception. Entirely.
Right.
And
so leaving
you
a
cannot
bad
say,
taste
oh, it's
in
just
the
a
mouth
perception
there.
problem, because that's all there is. Yeah, exactly. Right. So in that sense, I think
leaving a bad
this
taste
is
in the
something
mouth
which
is
was, as
the
Mr.
sense
Anuradha Dutt
get.
has already said.
Sure.
Yes.
So that's the sense coming in from our panelists. We're running out of time, Mr. Panag. I'll come to you for a few final thoughts. All the aspects that we've discussed, some of the work that he's done on the administrative side, what he's done with virtual hearings, some of his own self-discipline. In a very recent conversation I had with him, he told us how he wakes up at 4:30, how he's a vegan, he does yoga. The only vice appears to be, at least on his personal side, that he has a samosa. I think that appears to be the only vice. Having done that, having clocked 612 judgments, over 1,200 benches, what lessons is he leaving behind for Justice Khanna, who's set to take over as the next 51st CJI come November 11th?
Ashmit, the only lesson he's leaving behind is that constitutional courts must be judged by constitutional values. And everything else, from vices to the number of judgments that get written, are irrelevant if constitutional values are not upheld and judicial propriety is not upheld. On each of the examples we've gone through, I don't think there's any brownie points that could be granted if a constitutional court fails on first principles, and that first principle boils down to liberty and judicial propriety. To me, that is the highest yardstick. The challenge when senior judges and the Chief Justice of India has one version of liberty and constitutional values for public consumption outside the court, and that does not meet the muster of judgments, there is a breakdown, and then the rank and file reads into that breakdown, and that rank and file goes down to the absolute bottom of our justice dispensation, just the dispensation system. So I think the legacy to guide future judges is going to be to stay true to constitutional values and stay true to judicial propriety. The next time a political leader or a member of the executive wishes to call upon the Chief Justice, even in a so-called private event with cameras, then judicial propriety would demand the leader of opposition, the president, vice president, speaker of the House to be present. And if that muster cannot be met, then the lesson has not been imparted.
Right. So an interesting, prolific journey of Justice Chandrachud coming to an equally interesting end, leaving a divided house in terms of what the legacy may actually look like. I'd like to thank all of our panelists for taking out their time, sharing their insight for the benefit of our viewers. Ms. Dutt, Mr. Prasanna, Mr. Panag, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your perspective for our viewers. So there you have it. The journey of Justice Chandrachud comes to an end. Well, not technically today. It comes to an end on November 10th. But that's on Sunday, given the fact that today is the last working day is when Justice Chandrachud draws curtains on his role as the CJI, as the 50th CJI at the Apex Court. Again, raising a lot of questions as to what his journey over the last 8 years in the top court will look like in the public eye, in the public perception. But that's unfortunately all the time that we have. For more news and updates, keep watching CNBC TV 18.